Hello and welcome to the Cameron and Tia Show. I'm Cameron and I got something a little special, a little different for you here today. As you notice, Tia's not here. It's just me. That's because I'm going to take you behind the scenes of a live edit. Before I take you into my screen here, I am going to show you a couple tools that I use to help explain why things are happening the way they are. So the first, the biggest, the most important is my loop deck. This, when it comes to editing, has been a game changer. I have always hated clicking and dragging sliders or looking at keyboard shortcuts to drag sliders and adjust sliders, stuff like that. This loop deck has every single setting in Lightroom with a little knob, and I love it. So when I get into editing later, I'm already kind of bad at explaining what I'm doing, even when I'm clicking and sliding. With this, I'm even worse because I'm able to do multiple things at once, but it makes editing so much easier and so much faster. As I'm using it more and more, I'm learning where the buttons are, just like in my head, and so I can adjust contrast at the same time as I'm adjusting blacks, same time as I'm adjusting temperature. It's amazing, and I love it. The second tool I want to highlight quickly, some blue light glasses. I'm trying them out. Haven't made my mind up yet. Don't know if it's making that much of a difference. Only had them for a week, but so far, so good. So I'm going to try using these editing as well. I think that's it as far as tools. So let's dive in. And here we are. Today, I'm going to edit a few final pieces for this blog. I left a handful of photos from different parts of the day just so you can get a more well-rounded picture of how we edit. Before I do that though, I want to share 2 notes about our process. First, we cull our photos outside of Lightroom and then import them into Lightroom and sync the flags. We also, by default, apply our preset to every image during the import. So, to give you guys a more complete experience, for these images I'm going to edit, I actually went in and I reset them all to straight out of camera. So then I'm going to go in now, add the preset to each individually, and then tweak and edit. That way you can see the whole transformation. But just so you know, I don't ever actually apply the preset individually like that. That would be a very poor choice and way too time consuming. Second, when doing the final edits, I love to make use of the reference panel. So for these edits, I'm going to use an image that I edited for their surprise same-day slideshow. For these reference photos, I typically use my favorite edit from the day that includes both partners' faces and a good portion of their bodies and the colors of the day. And I think that this one fits the bill perfectly. Then, when I'm editing, every single edit will be directly compared to that one to ensure consistency and cohesiveness throughout the day. And so with that, let's get to it. So we're already in the reference panel. That's great. I'm going to add in that photo to the reference side, and I'm actually going to narrow down to only the images we have left. Select the first image. All right, let's get started. So first, preset, applied. Now let's bring up the exposure a bit and add a lot of warmth. This is also feeling, as I'm going, pretty green. So I'm going to adjust the tint quite a bit to help get rid of that or adjust for it. A little more warmth. And that looks great. So now, before, after. Love it. Next photo. Apply the preset. Bring down the exposure a bit on this one. Warm it up again quite a bit. Exposure down a little more. Just the tint just a little bit. All right, perfect. Before, after. Love it.
Breaking news! I am so sorry to interrupt this video, but if you're watching this video live, right now, this week only, we have a sweetheart sale going on in our shop for photographers. You can find all of our courses, guides, templates up to 20% off. You do not want to miss out on this. You can find the link in the description down below. And let's jump right back into the video.
Then I got a reference. Next photo. Let's apply a preset. Bring the exposure up a bit. Add a little bit of warmth here. A little bit more. Maybe a little more exposure too. Perfect. Before, after. Love it. Next one. All right. Add in the preset. I'm going to warm this up a bit. And actually, so now as I'm editing this one, it feels a lot softer than the reference in the other photos. So one thing that I like to do in these cases is I actually first go to dehaze because I like the way that both adds a punch and it kind of feels like it's like pulling them more into focus almost and like just a little clearer. Maybe I'll add a little contrast to this one too, just to make it a bit punchier to match the rest. I'll bring up the exposure again. I'm just going to bring down the temp a tiny bit and a little more tint. All right, that looks good. Before, after, before, after. Next one, cake cutting. All right, preset. So now this one is definitely a little warm. So I'll cool it down a bit. Bring up the exposure just a little bit. Actually, that seems good right there. So before, after, before, after. Very nice. Speeches. Apply the preset. Bring down the exposure and I'll bring up the temperature. A little more down on the exposure. Temp down a tiny bit too. And that seems good. Before, after, before, after. Final image, first dance. Let's add the preset. Bring up the exposure a little bit more. I'm going to add maybe just the tiniest bit of warmth to this. It's pretty close as is, actually. And there we go, just like that. All right, before, after, and then let's jump back and look at all these together. Beautiful. And just like that, we're done.